Welcome to Show Sparks, this time on stress management. And today I've got on the program Maarten de Winter, who has, as a CEO, experienced stress firsthand. I mean, we know that stress costs companies a lot of money. It costs quality of life for the people who are burdened by it. And as a CEO, Maarten discovered firsthand both how much effect it has on your life personally and also with respect to a company's future and fortunes as well. So in that process, he experienced it in the consulting role he played. He discovered what happened, why it happened, and how to go about coming at it differently, because most companies come at it in a way that simply accelerates the stress. So I'm now going to turn it over to Maarten to explain what he's learned through approaching stress in a very different way, stress reduction in a different way. Maarten?
Thank you very much, Donna. So thank you for your introduction. The way we would like you to look at it differently is we know normally that stress is an individual and a subjective connection. So I'd like to take you in a course which takes it to the organizational level and an objective perspective on it. Now that's really the game changer on the subject. I will talk you through a structure that leads to different conduct, leads to different behavior of people, leading to different performances. And before I'm going to talk you through it, I'll just comment briefly on the experience I had as a CEO in a middle-sized company, where I was responsible in a situation where it was really tough on meeting the budgets and meeting the demands. So we had, from quarter to quarter, I was responsible of setting the expectations, and I noticed that it was very difficult to meet them. So after 3 years of working very hard, I ran out of time, I ran out of money, and I ran out of energy. And later, this was 20 years ago, and later I reflected on it. I saw that these three things are really interconnected. That time, money, and energy are very much interconnected. And we should really understand that if we want to prosper, that we should look at time as the most scarce resource there is, and that there is a necessity to balance it. So we need to keep our balance ourselves as managers, and we need to help our employees to balance their lives out. Now that's really the main point that I've learned, and I've seen in companies that time is often used as if there is an infinite supply of it. Let's do this, let's do that. When there is a problem, let's start a change program, which comes on top of the other change programs that we have, which comes on top of the tasks that we have. And we simply do not realize that when we use the time like that, that the imbalances causes a dynamic in the company that leads not only to running out of time, but also running out of budgets and running out of energy. Now, that's really what my passion is, really to share that and to say, let's put time management in a new approach, in an objective approach, and in a more broader perspective. So I'll start off talking you through the structure, telling you what it is that I've applied and that we've learned, and then afterwards we'll have some discussion on well, what do you feel about it, and how we can reflect on it.
Sounds good.
Therefore, I'll show you a few slides, Donna. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So when we look at it as a necessity to restore time balance, then let me take you to this simple slide. So we have on the left side working time, and we have overtime. That is our carrying capacity for the task load. And we have on the right side, we have our routines, we have our tasks, we have unforeseen tasks, things that you couldn't foresee, that could not be planned of, but nevertheless they are there. They are there in business life. Now, when you are out of balance, there is only one way, and that is you have to offload, because there isn't going to be more time. You could put extra overtime on it. That would give you work-life tensions, and that would you'd offload the problems to your family and to your children, and you could offload it to your colleagues. But there's one of these two things have to happen. Now, offloading this and passing the buck that is a serious problem in the governance in organizations. It would lead to more multitasking, and it would lead to what I call appointment inflation. So every day that tasks are offloaded, it means that the value of appointments that we have deteriorate or decrease. Now, appointment inflation is something that people know intuitively as a fact of business life, and they react on it normally by making appointments on a very short term. That is the logical reaction. Now, this means that we get a short focus, and we get this offloading leads to the multitasking, and it leads to less connected working together. So my next slide is to show you more or less what the implications are of this, how this leads to deteriorating of the energy balance. So when we start at looking at this sheet, we see an iceberg, and we see at the top the physical absence, and that is there is no energy, the people are absent, and we know that this is partly because of stress. And when we think of the business case of stress reduction, that's normally what we would look at. And we'd say, okay, we have a 5 or 6% physical absence, so what can we do about it? Now, what I would like to take you through is the steps that we cannot see very visible, but they are there. The appointment inflation makes it necessary for people to control to check if the appointments that they have made, if they are being delivered on time. Now that takes a lot of energy to constantly see how this works in the working together. I already told you how the multitasking goes up through this appointment inflation, and even when there's no appointment inflation, we can see multitasking in organizations. We know out of experience and out of surveys that this leads to a reduction of energy of 30 to 40%. Now, when you work a lot in multitasking, then you'll get stress, and then you lose half of your productivity. Now, these are the people that are committed to contribute to the organizations, but once you see that you really have a choice on, do I work together with my colleagues in this situation of appointment inflation and multitasking and stress, or am I going to say, well, just let me carry out my own thing? Then you're really on a course of mental absence. Now, then you would only maintain 20% of the potential of the people. So any manager can, with this sheet, assess what the frozen energy in their company is. And my experience is it is between 30 and 50%. And it is a serious business case to restore the energy of people. And you could start that by taking time very seriously as a scarce resource. The structure that I apply is to restore balance in a balancing circle. So it starts with a diagnosis of the time balance. It then takes you to a dialogue with yourself, a dialogue with your colleagues, a dialogue with your superior, and then you take the steps after you've brought ideas for balancing to the table. You take the actions on the priorities. So this is how we restore the balance in time through this circle: diagnose, dialogue, and do. And you can see that the dialogue is really the core in here. That is really the essential element. It helps us to reflect on what's going on an individual level, on a team level, on an organizational level, with respect to balancing our time. So this structure is started with a diagnose, and for this I've developed a diagnostic tool. This diagnostic tool I'll show you very shortly here, the time balance sheet, the Taaktuner, where we can see in the weeks to come how much capacity do we have. Those are the green and orange balls that you see there, and is this adequate? and we can see the tasks that we've committed to, and can they be, when we balance them out, when we give all the available capacity to these tasks, can we then meet the deadlines and the appointments that we have made? Now you can see here, for instance, that this first path has a red part of it. It cannot be solved with extra overtime, which we can see. So we have a serious point here, and we cannot meet it. Now, once we see this, and you take yourself seriously as a professional or as a manager, then you see you'd have to do something about it. Prioritize, or perhaps come with new business processes, or whatever it is that your creativity and your cooperation brings you to solve the problem. So, well, that's the supporting structure of it, leading to a time balance to restore and maintain the responsibility for it. Now, the structure supports people to keep their balance in time, to maintain work-life balance, and not offloading, but effective cooperation on the tasks that they have committed to. We've evaluated this in a case, and this is really these are the key elements. It helps you to personally. The organizational perspective is a structure which leads to conduct, which leads to better performance. The vision there is, if you value life, value time, so take your personal time balance very seriously, but also a management priority. Time is the scarcest resource, and we should very much have interactions on how do we allocate this time and how do we use it. Dialogue is the essential element there with a diagnostic tool, and we've seen in practice how this improves relations, how we reduce the iceberg, performance goes up by 6% in the first year, how we've seen stress levels going down, and how we've seen work in process going down and being better in control. So these are the performance improvements that we've seen. Well, that's on this very short notice what we've done.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's nice.
Okay.
It's a nice quick overview, Maarten. Thank you. A couple of things come to mind. First of all, I really appreciate the comment about companies treating time as infinite. And also the way they often treat stress is by planning for it and then taking action and skipping the figuring out where to take action effectively stage. So the diagnosed conversation helps do that. I know there are companies that are overstressed overtasked by 450% in certain units, but the rest of the organization doesn't know that, so they get angry at that one unit, but they're simply overtasked. So it's a way. This tool seems to me to be also a way of raising organizational awareness on what they're doing without actually being aware of the implications and the cause and effect of dumping too many tasks on one particular area or one person or one unit or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, there's a. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's true. What you're saying is true, and we should be able to get the commitment of people to stay balanced, and if they stay balanced, then we have we should have a sharp discussion on how do we allocate the scarce time? What are your talents? How can we make the best use of your talents? How can you contribute to our strategy while keeping you vital, while keeping you healthy, while being effective, and while being connected? So these are the issues that we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, and it also seems to me that yes, there's a personal responsibility, but this doesn't work organizationally unless everybody works together to make it work, because there's going to be metrics in place that are going to reinforce the old behaviors, of got to make the deadline, got to make the target. There's going to be things that need to be changed, processes, procedures, and you really won't know what until you have those conversations.
That's right. So you should have insight in where the bottlenecks are, where the actual problems are, if you want to solve them. That's what the Taaktuner helps you with, to get that clear. But let's not overestimate the tool. It really comes down to leadership, to the leadership of the management, to first of all take responsibility for their own time balance. Because I, as a CEO, I wasn't in balance anymore. And I've seen what it did with me. And I've seen how I contributed to the constant firefighting in the organization. So I learned that if I, as a manager, give this example of constant overtime and constantly adding up to the list and never regaining balance, that in the end the company burns down. And that's exactly what happened too. So so it's really a responsibility thing first. Now, if you understand that restoring your own time balance is crucial to be connected, to be of value in your company, to be vital, to be of value in your family, then it's not easy perhaps to restore it, because there is an enormous pressure to perform, and I understand that very well. Nevertheless, we must understand that this is the only way to have a sustainable use of our own energy. So if we burn it out, the energy is getting less and less all the time until we reach a point, and that's what I want to show with this iceberg, until we reach a point that we've only got so much energy left to keep alive, to stay alive.
Yeah.
So if we want to restore it, we must add the energy, we must be in contact, we must talk on priorities, on talents, and have this dialogue going, and helping people to get in balance, and starting as a management, starting with ourselves to get in balance.
Excellent, excellent. So now to get started, people, I mean, the Taaktuner is really the diagnose portion of the conversation. It gets the dialogue going.
Yeah.
Where do people go to begin to get an assessment for themselves, and where to start?
Yeah, that's a good question, Donna. So I've in Holland, no, where to start? Where to start is really by assessing for yourself a detailed quantitative analysis, but on a more global way, more qualitative approach. You could start by filling in the questionnaire that you'd see on the website on which this video is, or if you can't find it there, you just send me an email at taaktuner.com, and I will send you the link then, and there you'll get a first awareness on the imbalance in your personal life and or in your company. So it may very well be that you are, as a manager, perfectly in balance, but that you recognize the imbalances in your company, or vice versa, or whatever the situation is, would help you to understand or to assess for yourself what could be the value of a time balance program. Now, if you want to enter a time balance program, then you could leave it in the questionnaire saying, yes, I'd like to get more information on it. If you are watching and you are a consultant and you say, I recognize this stress and this imbalance, and I can see that it's very important for us to restore balance in many systems that we have, and I recognize time balance as a very important turning point there, then I'm glad to share my knowledge with you, and we'll see how we can work together in your clients, with your clients, how you could, how do you say it, how you can apply this knowledge with your own clients. So, well, that's how to proceed from here, Donna.
All right, thank you very much, Maarten. I appreciate you being on the program, and just thank you for the work you've done, because really the opportunity here to reduce stress just makes such a difference to people's lives. So thanks everyone for joining us, and watch for more Stospokes program. We do one management innovation program a month, and then weekly other programs I do under my From Insight to Action banner, and as well as one sustainability program a month. So again, Maarten, thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to playing with the tuner.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Donna. Bye-bye.